Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So today's major mission on our JFMT lathe reassembly, we're going to be reassembling the taper turning attachment. So I've just spent the last 6 hours getting everything all cleaned up because it was pretty filthy. Last video I mentioned I was going to switch over to a remote Rode mic, which I have one up in the house, but I've had to order the other attachment for the GoPro camera that the camera slips into, just so I can plug the thing into. I had one for my old GoPro 8, but not for this new 10. When I brought the 10, I just brought the bare camera. I thought, I'll just get the other bits as required. So, which is, I don't know what other makes of cameras are like. One trap with a GoPro is you buy the camera, the basic camera, and then you've got all this other stuff you've got to buy to make the thing work how you want it to work. Which I had most of it for the GoPro 8, but it doesn't fit the 10. So anyway, we'll postpone the Rode mic, hopefully next video. So let's get our taper turning attachment back together, hopefully. So last week we fully expected to come across some funky business when remounting this taper turning attachment. As we mentioned, we're actually unsure of the origin of this taper turning attachment, whether it was, I seriously doubt it's original equipment to this machine. It could well be off another JFMT lathe. I doubt it was off this one, as the paint's a different colour for a start. I'd mentioned this possibility, as this lathe is a direct copy of a Mazak. This could well be Mazak. Who knows? We don't know. All I do know is it was mounted by 4 socket head cap screws. Now it should be mounted by 6. One of the holes here was still half bogged over, which I had to dig out. However, the back of the carriage is drilled for 6 mounting bolts. So that's something. There's also dowel holes. There's 2 dowel holes. I'll bring you in a bit closer. Okay, so this one here was half bogged over, so I had to clean all the paint and bog out of that. This also has 2 dowel holes, one there, one there. So does the back of the carriage. One there, different spots. So I'd say that's a bit of a giveaway that this is possibly off. Well, yeah, we don't know, and I ain't going to guess anymore. So at least the bolt holes line up, so that's a good thing. So let's see if we can't get it bolted up. The other funky thing is, when I was cleaning the parts and cleaning out all of the tapped holes, all of the tapped holes on this taper turning attachment are British Standard Whitworth. So there's another one to consider. So just going back to these dowels for a second, the 2 that are here, if we were to re-drill, would have to be re-drilled there and there. Now the dowels there and there, you see this one, take note of that circle there. Well, that circle is this hole here. That's another access point for electrical wiring. So the dowel hole intersects with that hole, as you can see there. So for all intents and purposes, I actually don't think, with 6 bolts mounting it, I don't think it's worth pursuing and drilling for dowels. So we'll carry on with the reassembly. What I might do is just put a bit of oil on the face just for a bit of corrosion resistance. Okay, so using our scissor trolley, you can just offer it up, lower it down a bit, come up a bit, okay. A little bit of oil on our 4 mounting screws. Now the other two, as I said, it has 6 mounting screws. I didn't have 2 cap screws, but I do have 2 12-point head screws. And they line up. That one does, and that one does. Right. So the axis of this base, i.e. this machined area here, has to be parallel with the top of our bedways here. Now assuming this had dowels in it, you should just be able to put this back on and it would bring it into close enough alignment. So we will, before we tighten this down, when we put the next part in, the big slide in, we'll check the heights with a dial indicator back to the bed before we tighten these down, in case we've got to give it any adjustment. Okay, bit of lube. Greasier the easier. Okay. Right, let's get our gib strip in next. Hopefully this will go in without a great deal of dicking around like all of our other gib strips. You never know, there's got to be a first time. What really surprised me too, when I was cleaning all the parts for this, tapping the threads out to clean them, all of the threads were British Standard Whitworth. So She's come from good pedigree, one would hope. Okay. Well, that felt good. There's no binding or anything, so let's continue on. So we have the slide that goes on next. This is the slide that sets the angle of the taper you want to cut. Now, this only goes one way, which is that way. Put our end stops on, our end locks. Bit of oil just for corrosion protection underneath as well. Okay. So they're secured by 4 3/8 socketed cap screws. Which also, these end caps are the locks for your tapered bar there. So I'll just leave them slackened off. So this is still free, yeah. Now we still have to do our alignment. Let's do our alignment, then we can nip this up. We know we don't have to go back and revisit it. This is going to take a bit of toing and froing and juggling, so I'll bring you back when we get our final measurement. Okay, we got there in the end. I had to switch indicator bases over to this one here. There's our other one there. It just kept moving around too much, so she needs a bit of maintenance, that one. So we come on here. Oh yeah, you won't pick it. We're approximately on 0 there, 0 to plus half a thou. So we'll just come up the other end. Very gingerly put it back down. And we're plus 2 thou. So we're approximately within 1.5 thou. So that's over a good 2 feet, 600 mil distance. So I think we'll, I've already tightened it all up and that was my last double check. So now we can move on. That was actually quite a bit of mucking around to get that right, but mainly due to that other indicator moving around too much. So let's get the rest of this buttoned up now. Right, so next part we've got our slide that goes over. So this goes over here. And of course, yet another gib strip. Yay. Let me just double check to make sure. I took a photo of this to make sure I get this oriented the correct way around. Okay, so the gib strips go to the outside. Plenty of oil on everything. Even the surfaces that don't slide, they like a bit of corrosion protection. So that goes that way. Before that goes in, we have this stud that goes in first. He comes up from the underside. Like so. Our gib strip. Okay. Nice and free. Before we go any further, we'll get this gib adjusted up. Hey, we might get 2 gibs in a row that go in without mucking around. That'll be good. Back it off 1/4 of a turn. Snug it up 1/4. I want to feel that point where it starts to bind. Which is like there. Yep. Okay, that's binding there, so I'm going to back this off a complete 1/2 a turn. Oops. Okay, that's good there. You want to keep the adjustments on these quite, I'll say quite firm. They've still got to be able to freely slide without binding. But you don't want any play in these things. Okay, I like that there. So this has got a locating key in it. So well, I can see where we could be getting into some trouble here. Okay, we're going to have to wind our cross-slide lead screw all the way back. Hopefully yeah, we're going to run out of room here. This sucks. Okay, I'm just going to pop this gib strip back out. It should let me rock this housing over a little bit, just enough to get this to sit down. And we've got a couple of thrust bearings that go in here as well. Okay, right. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Okay, so we know that can go, so let's get our thrust bearings in. So we just have a simple thrust bearing. One goes on either side, and that's to take the end thrust from the cross-slide lead screw. So I've got a good amount of grease on these. One goes in there. One on that side. Work that grease into them. Okay, so we've got one goes on the end of the cross-slide lead screw. I'll bring it a bit closer. Right, we'll try again. Just had to swap SIM cards on the camera, and then the battery was getting flat, so I've plugged the battery in into the power. So yeah, we were, let's take a back step. So this is the thrust race, goes in on the end of the cross-slide lead screw, that goes up inside, up against the shoulder, and we have the thrust bearing, same, goes inside up against the thrust race. Now we have another thrust race, but I actually want to put him in here first, and we hang on, back step, we've already got that one in, so we need to get this one in here. Now this is where we've got a jiggle, so I've got a key that we're lining up on here, as well as keeping this. Let's pull this off for a sec, get this key lined up. As long as everything is that neat a fit, which it has to be. Ideally, I think I should have assembled this whole lot up first and then fitted it to the machine, but I thought I'd go this way. Okay, that's on there. We have a washer and our nut. A thrust washer. So we need to nip this nut up and draw that stud up into the slide. Okay. It's nipped up. She's still free, so we've located the key successfully. Now we can turn our cross-slide lead screw, I think anti-clockwise. We should see it coming through there. Okay. The other thrust bearing. Race. Now there's a screwed collar goes on here, which is just here. Now this is what sets the preload on these thrust bearings and takes any of the play out of the cross-slide lead screw. It's got a grub screw to lock it, and inside there's a little brass slug so the thread does not get damaged. Just screw this Allen key in it tab. Okay, and just screw this in a bit just so we can get this nut screwed up. With the head of the grub screw sticking out, it's just preventing me from screwing this up. So nip that up, just back it off a touch. Just want a very light, just so it's just taking up the play. That's all it needs. Okay. Now, our Gibbs strip can go back in. Now, because we didn't touch the rear screw, this can go back in, and we know that it's going to be set in the correct position. Because now we have no way of sliding this and checking how it feels on the guide. So presetting the Gibbs strip on this part is a good thing. Okay. Make sure it all still moves. Yep. Okay, let's get our side guides on. Okay, these are the guide strips which locate the slide. Same again, plenty of oil. And they are location specific. So this one has to go on this side. Even though they look the same, it can't go on that side. Otherwise the location dowels will not line up. So we have two dowels at the front and one dowel here, and that dowel was missing, I believe. So these dowels are the same type, just with the ejecting nut and washer. You just back the nuts all the way off, poke them in, and then just very gingerly nip, or give them a tap, and then just nip the nuts down. Okay, we're still good there. Okay, so these nuts just get nipped down. They don't get tightened, they just get snugged down enough so they won't fall out. Let me tighten these nuts down, I'll bring you back. They're just a bit of a fiddle to get to. Right, just snug them down, that's all I need. Now the next part to go in is this mechanism here, and what this does, it adjusts, it's the adjuster for the taper bar, so you can adjust your cut. The oil on the threads. You just sit, there's a spigot there, that just drops into the hole on the end of the bar there. Two socket heads cap screws, retain it. Okay, and by turning this, I'll give you a shot from the end. So this screw will alter the position of the slide bar, and you can read off here on your scale what size taper you want to cut. Okay, so the last piece of the puzzle is the clamping mechanism which secures the slide, which is the whole slide assembly, to the bed, so that when we're cutting a taper and this bar is angled, we lock this support to the bed, so when the carriage traverses in and out, the angle of this linked to that causes your cross slide, the automatic movement in and out. So let's get this mounted up and we'll try and give you a bit of a demo. If you watched the previous video when we did strip this, I did have an inkling there was a part missing under here, which we're going to have to make. Let's get the screw in. Oops. Get the right screw in would help. So we have this clamp, and this, when you do up these two cap screws, this clamps us to the bed. Normally this would be left in the slackened off position, just loose. So all you have to do when you want to cut a taper, set your taper angle and tighten these two screws up, bang, you're ready to go. So in this area here where you can see that daylight through there, there's supposed to be what's called a gib goes in there. It's like a wear strip. So when you tighten up on this, it gives us something to pull down onto. Okay, so I've got the taper attachment, that clamp locked down to the bed now. So I'm going to push the carriage in a forward direction. Now this blue Sharpie marker, you'll see it shift over this way. So the blue Sharpie that's there will end up over here. And we have a slight taper set on our bar here. Okay, so it's automatically shifted the cross slide across. So all while that was taking place and our cross slide was moving, I had our dial here set on 0 and it's still on 0. That's because with a proper taper attachment like this, you have a two-piece lead screw for the cross slide, so I can move this independently regardless if it's locked into the taper attachment or not. So then when you finish cutting your tapers, all you have to do is release these clamps. And then our whole carriage assembly is free to move, and our cross slide will stay where it's at. It will not cut on the angle anymore. Not until we lock this back up. So yeah, it's the two-piece lead screw in there. It's a telescoping lead screw, and that's how it all happens. I think if you, in the last video when we did install the cross slide and the lead screw, you could see how I was trying to fit the end of the lead screw into the female part on the other end. So that's all good, that's all done. So what we have to do now we can tighten up our our backlash adjuster here on the cross slide lead screw nut, just till we get this little bit of play out. We just need to reduce this backlash. So I'll do that in the next video. I'll show you how I do it, and then yeah, we'll wrap this one up. Well, okay, in a nutshell, between this video and the previous one, that's how a taper turning attachment functions. I only wish I was able to give you a live demonstration with the lathe powered up, but yeah, well, we'll do that when the lathe's up and running. So it's about that time of day now. It's Friday afternoon and I have an appointment with Mr. Northern. So anyway, cheers, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. That'll be right. Where's my fucking shifter gone? Mr. Northern. Cheers.